Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished professional entrepreneur from Mumbai, India, Mr. Pratham Barot. Pratham, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir.
Pratham is the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Zell Education, which is one of India's fastest growing edtech organizations in accounts and finance. So Pratham, before we talk about Zell, tell me what was the inspiration to start Zell and how did your journey begin?
Sure. Yeah, so my dad has a family business in the hospitality sector, and I've all grown up in a business background, and the family's been very successful. They have a chain of restaurants called Rajdhani, which was the first restaurant that started thalis in India, and I've seen that journey, of course. And along with my college days, I knew I wanted to do something besides just college, just the regular BCom. So that's when I jumped into one of these professional qualifications, which is ACCA, which was new that time. I just did it because I knew I didn't want to stand still. I could have done anything else. That was not really my concern. For various reasons, I had stumbled upon this. Somebody had recommended it. Otherwise, I would have probably done something else. I just needed to keep moving. So I landed up completing with my BCom this ACCA qualification along with a couple of years of experience. So when I came out of college, I already had slightly more exposure under my belt than my peers. And that's when I get an opportunity to work at PwC. So PwC hired me in transfer pricing, which is under international taxation, because of this relatively new ACCA qualification. And I worked there for a year. And in that entire process, I realized that maybe I realized that time Shark Tank US was really popular. I fell for that, and I think a few things came together, and I realized that I would like to have given entrepreneurship its chance for myself. I had my father's business. I had these opportunities that I wanted to do, sort of take it from zero by myself. So with all things falling, in place, right from opportunity, and because of my ACCA, I realized that there is an opportunity for this in India for students like me who wanted to do something in commerce, but not the usual chartered accounting, etc. So I had some idea over here. At the same time, in my blood, I think there is entrepreneurship. Plus, I was motivated by things like Shark Tank. Plus, I was I was realizing that maybe a large MNC corporate job is not for me. So with all these things combined, I had my parents' support over here. So, you combine all these factors. I was young. I could take that chance at that time. The risk was not so high. And with all these things falling in place, it was the natural extension as a decision that let's jump into it. And, that's what I landed up doing.
And as they say, the rest is history.
I hope I can say that. I would prefer reaching a much loftier height before I could make that statement for myself. But that's the idea.
Sure. But Pratham, tell me, what was the reason to focus only on accounts and finance in Zell Education?
Sure. So, I was 22, 23 when I started. Honestly, the business plan was not made so far ahead. I took it more from the point of view that let's put one foot in front of the other, because my background, of course, was in finance. That's the reason I picked it up. And then as we started growing, we realized that it's better to go deep than wide. And we stuck to our guns. We knew it's a blue ocean category. It's not very popular yet from organization's perspective, but the demand is there. And then in India also, a lot of these global finance accounting qualifications started getting recognized. So once again, luck was on my side. A lot of things met. I had that background. India was recognizing it more and more. Potential students were more interested. Competition was not high over here or even focusing over here. And I'm an avid reader. I'm very when I took up entrepreneurship, it was not because of anything fancy. I just believed that I could resonate with it. So I study things a lot, and I know that at this stage, for the first few years, becoming a specialist was better than a generalist, and that is why we decided to stick to finance and accounts, grow quickly if we can from there, and then depending on how it went a few years later, we were open to growing laterally.
Fascinating. And can you talk a little bit more about the various programs that Zell Education offers, especially the globally accredited certifications like Global CA,
Yeah.
CFA, CP, and CMA?
Yes, sir. Yep. So exactly, ACCA is what I have studied, which is you can think of it as global CA. Basically, it has the same value as our Indian CA. It's just that ACCA is recognized worldwide. So besides India, it's recognized in countries like UK, Canada, Australia, Singapore, Dubai, and over 180 countries, with of course small nuances which are different, but more or less the career prospects are the same across the world. So that's ACCA. That's where, and we are currently the largest partner for the ACCA body in India. We are something known as platinum partners. We're the largest by volume, largest by passing rate, highest passing rate. We produce multiple rank holders. We place majority of our students, and then all the details within this ACCA offering. We are quite, we can offer customers anything and everything within this category. So that's ACCA. Our second launch was CFA, which is, as everybody knows, the #1 course in the field of finance, specializing in finance.
Yeah.
CFA was a difficult product for anybody to scale in India because of various reasons, but maybe because of our background and our specialization, we were able to take it to a certain height. So once again, in CFA, we are one of the largest when it comes to volume of students as well as passing rate, which is the only thing that matters in our industry. We got to have students clear exams because that's what we are here for. CMA is, there is an Indian CMA, but we are currently conducting the US CMA because of other reasons, like it's a little shorter in time frame. It has decently high value in India. Plus, once again, it falls within our global portfolio. Then we have FRM. FRM is Financial Risk Management, another specialization in India. But it's a US-based program. But it's, the chief risk officer and the entire hierarchy under it starts recognizing FRM in India. So that's something which is a niche. And again, we've reached almost #1 over there. Then there is something called diploma in IFRS. IFRS is accounting standards. It might be boring to some, but today, because of the market becoming much more financially literate, wants to invest in the stock markets, I think IFRS is becoming even more popular in India, and we have a massive chunk of the working professional audience in India who are taking this training from us. We've in fact just last month we've launched an upskilling program in sustainability called ESG. ESG is a new category. It's all under reporting, so it sort of falls under a finance domain. The environmental, social, and governance aspect, which is now going to become mandatory in India. So that's again, and already in US, UAE, of course, it's already quite popular. So now we are, that also falls within our portfolio. We've also launched investment banking, which obviously, as we know, is across the globe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we are doing. That's our sort of portfolio. We will also be launching certain Indian qualifications like the Indian CA. But naturally, we started because of the reason that I had studied something which was global. And as I mentioned earlier, we took it one day at a time. And that's how we've built the portfolio.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Congratulations on the amazing work that you are doing. But Pratham, my next question is, how has technology played a role in the growth and functioning of Zell?
Yes, sir. So we started with, I had this, I told my partner upfront that we will not, take money from family. Taking a bank loan and all that time was something which was just out of, like, I knew debt was not my thing, right? I was not wanting to start something with debt. And raising money, again, 2015 we started, so 2015 was not yet the culture it is today. So I always wanted to start somehow from zero. Uh, we luckily managed doing that, and we had started with offline training, the classroom training, which was the usual norm back then. But over time, because of our international uh, offerings, we started getting a few organic interest from candidates from other countries, and we started installing. That time, Skype was much more popular than Zoom or
Yeah.
Google Meet. So we had started with that. And then, of course, as I was trying to grow a business from scratch, um, in most cases, it started turning out that technology was the best answer I had.
Mm.
Because think about setting up either processes or systems. If I want to make it error free, instead of relying on human beings to follow SOPs, it's better to rely on technology, which will not make those errors.
Mm.
When I wanted to scale and reach more candidates, right? I needed to find ways that distribution happened through tech. So whether it's our learning management platforms, whether it is the way we reach candidates to build awareness these kind of situations, I consider this as part enabled by technology. I don't know if we would have had this same kind of conversation at this stage had it not been for tech. So I don't just look at it as, the usual thing which edtech people say, that have we can reach out to people and they can flex, they don't have to leave their home, they can sit
Right.
at their home and study. That is definitely there. But I
Mm.
think technology is much more deeply ingrained at Zell, because it's my way of looking at the most efficient way to achieve something. It might seem difficult and costly in the beginning, but forget long run, even in the short and medium run, it is definitely cheaper than having the whatever I want to accomplish via tech. If I don't have tech, I need human beings, and I need multiple of them. And of course, there might be issues where they might, you know, understandably make
Yeah.
mistakes and take time, and in turn have a higher cost. So I look at it not just in the simple way that I can teach online, but the entire business is growing stably. Fundamentally, it is strong because of tech integrations.
Fascinating. Great response. And Pratham, what in your view sets Zell apart from so many other edtech platforms?
Yes, so there are two parts here. One is, honestly, it's about the we took a brave decision, I feel, very early on, to not be enamored by the trend, to not feel the fear, to not have that FOMO, or to not just do what everyone is doing because it seems. So the best example is fundraising. We are a completely bootstrapped company. Now, every time there is a discussion, and there was a phase, if you remember back almost from Flipkart's early days when it
Mhm.
became the poster boy for India, all the way till this funding winter, which was in 2022. So a good, 6, 7, 10-year period where
Mhm.
fundraising, equity raising became the most common reason people got excited about entrepreneurship or startups. It was raising became a celebration, raising became a status symbol, valuation was the game. And luckily, I was very clear that we need to remember the business metrics. I think my Shark Tank learnings and knowing my family has come from that traditional business building background. We always kept our eye on what matters, um, which is customer experience, which is, like I was earlier mentioning, things like passing rate,
Mhm.
which is profitability. Am I acquiring customers correctly? How do I fend off different problems through effort rather than the trend, which would be throw money at certain issues. So number one is, I think our mindset has been much more customer centric, much more ethical. There are so many times I've gotten really good opportunities if I was willing to move my compass of not moral compass, but my compass of what is acceptable just a little bit. I think I would have had certain great opportunities, but we stuck to our guns because we knew that if this does not pan out, right, it might seem really rosy right now, but we would always look at all the risks associated to certain decisions, which I know many people have just taken it in excitement, and then it might have paid off for some, might not. So number one is our focus on business fundamentals and customers has been the case. We didn't want to change our allegiance as such from customers to anything else, whether it is the market, whether it is investors, whether it is competition, whether it's anything for that matter, right? So we kept our eye over there. That's the one thing. And that sort of drives our ethos, our DNA, our philosophy. Every leader that we hire, they need to understand and accept this before they join us. Otherwise, it's not going to be the right fit. The second thing we did quickly was the smaller. So if I go into the technical details, I can explain why our passing rate is better, why our employee culture is better. But that's the thing we did. We tried to ensure that everything in, we didn't do one big thing or two big things. We tried to ensure that 10, 20 things we did right. And I think that cumulatively gives us the moat, to acquire customers profitably, serve them in a way that they remain happy, make sure that our team members are happy, they are aligned, they're driven, make sure that it's a balance of fun and professionalism, know the audience, learn about the audience, make sure that any promises we make, we commit to them, try and get the best quality faculties on board, try and get the best kind of tech or content on board. So it was a combination of these things that I think has helped us survive rather than a good one-line answer.
Well said. Well said. You also spoke a little bit about all the active collaborations you have with different bodies around the world. How do these partnerships benefit your students?
Yeah, so Zell's entire role is to connect and skill candidates who have the potential to make a career in the field of finance or accounts. So every partnership I have is either to reach out to more candidates who might not have otherwise taken this field but are meant for it, or it is to ensure that whatever we are serving to our customers are coming from the best partnerships available. So that's the two ways, it is outreach and it is quality of servicing via these partnerships. That is the way we look at these partnerships.
Well said. I want to now move to a few questions to you personally as a leader, as an entrepreneur. My question to you, Pratham, is as a leader who's building such an amazing business in EdTech, what principles guide your decision making?
So number one is trying to declutter the amount of things that drive the North Star for me to make decisions. I try to make sure that doesn't change a lot and it's a few, So for example, I know that customer centricity and making sure that anything I do, any product I launch, any change we make, any pricing we talk about, any new feature we try to add, it needs to not come from what my team or I feel. It needs to be validated in some capacity by some sample set of customers. And that's the difficult part, how do we know whether something will work or not? So decision making, and luckily if it's driven from customers now, everything becomes, almost every decision we're making is eventually for them. So that is, that's one North Star that I follow, right? Other is, be ethical in, we know what we know how we can do things in a slightly more convoluted way if we wanted to, but saying no to that and taking decisions which are not harming anybody. It could be not just customers, it could be anybody else for that matter. So that's one other, that's another basis for our decision. And at the end, because we're a bootstrap company, I do keep an eye very tightly on profitability. So again, you need to make data-driven decisions. You need to build processes and systems in turn to make decisions. You don't want to have every decision made from zero. You want to have a system to make decisions faster, and they all need to be drawn from these 3-4 principles. So I think over time we've developed that approach, and that's how we look at
Fantastic. Wonderful. Great response. Pratham, I have time for two more questions for you. As a very young entrepreneur who started Zell Education, what would you say have been some of your significant learnings?
Oh, yeah, um, so I think that what the in the last century, all the business magnates, what they've always, the gurus, what they've been saying is true. It is about long term. It everything that you think about, um, if you think about from the long term perspective, it all falls in place, right? Which in today's world, it's actually the most difficult to do with so much of media and glory surrounding short term successes. They are right about the fact that it is all about customers. They are um, they are right that if you don't do things correctly, that at some point will come and break you down. So I think the learnings are similar to the other questions which has formed our decision making, which has caused us to survive till here, which is yeah, just I'm like I said, I'm an avid learner. So everything I read, and I'm looking for that. Every book I'm reading, I'm looking for that one para, that one page that's going to give me something new to work on, which resonates with me. And I can go on and on. But yeah, quickly, if I have to add more tangible points, one is I believe a lot in systems, and I've grown to understand how important systems are to create a business. I think a lot of people miss that, and I don't know if in what education they really teach us that, but systems is something I really believe in. Sales, I've learned the hard way. I've had to jump into it and learn, and I understand that things might be really good, but if you are unable to ethically sell, you can't continue it. I've seen money being the game changer for the biggest companies in our industry, and again, focusing on profitability, sacrificing a little bit of uh, time, instead of doing it in 1 year, if you can be okay with 3 years, there is a much better chance to succeed and survive. So I have a lot, I've learned tons about people management. So I can go on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do a whole
Your
podcast
point
on this.
well taken. And my last question for you, given all the work that you're doing with Zell today, what are your future plans for Zell? And, do you see it going all over the world?
Yeah. I mean, I think almost all entrepreneurs start with that vision and that dream. But I think it's becoming more substantiated for us because it's almost been close to a decade now. Uh, we have been growing year on year, really well. Our reach, our brand value, everything is improving. But I think we're at the beginning, because if you just look at it from that perspective, we are currently yet catering to the audience which already has demand for finance learning. But I feel that's the thinnest sliced. 99% of the world who's not having a career in finance. All right. But money is something that touches us all.
Correct.
So think about the fact that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, working out or exercising was not, everyone knew it was supposed to be done since centuries, but it's become a trend, it's become a habit in the last few years. And I think we should think about money like that, because whether you talk about budgeting for personal life, whether you talk about taxation, whether you talk about business, whether you talk about your own salary figures, whether you talk about taking care of your family, buying a house, the usual stuff. When people are not completely aware about how to look at money, I think there are a lot of problems that happen, and we can all avoid that through simple education. So I think that's the longer term goal. Maybe it's a 30-year goal, where at some point, we want people's mindset to shift from learning finance only if they need
Yeah.
to something that should be inculcated irrespective, just like we look at health now. And that would be the longest sort of term vision.
Fantastic. And on that note, Pratham, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me about your own journey. It's amazing how a bootstrapped company has grown into such a large venture. You still haven't raised money, but and I'm sure with that kind of drive that you have and the kind of range that you already have started to create, you will probably be one of the stars to watch out for. Thank you for talking to me about Zell and all the work that you're doing in the area of accounts and finance. When I started reading about you, I was wondering why you had taken such a niche position, but after our conversation, I understand it's multiple segments within the area of accounts and finance. Thank you for speaking to me again, and all the very best to you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.